What's up, basketball coaches, players, and fans? Welcome to the Pass First podcast, where we share our knowledge of the game. My name is Alex Engel, and I'm here with my partner, Augie Johnston. Today, we have a special guest, Coach Aona. He's the head coach at Hawaii Hilo University, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about his journey as he's moved up through the coaching ranks. If you like this podcast and you've been following along, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and to follow us on both iTunes and Spotify as well. Thank you so much for supporting us, and let's get right into today's episode. All right, everybody, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said earlier, we have a special guest, Coach Aona. He is the head coach at Hawaii Hilo University. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. Really glad to have you here with us and to learn a little bit from you. So first things first, we like to always learn about our guests. So give us a brief 2-3 minute background on yourself and your kind of coaching and playing journey.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Augie. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. You guys do a great job. It's an awesome podcast. You guys got me hooked. So thank you very much for having me on. Background, like you said, I'm the head coach at University of Hawaii Hilo. Before this, I coached at 6 other colleges or universities along the way. And before that, born and raised in Hawaii, born and raised on the big island of Hawaii, and got the opportunity to play for some great coaches and play with some great players, teammates here in Hawaii, and fortunate enough to get an opportunity to play on the mainland. I played in St. Louis, Missouri at Webster University, 4-year career there, and then got right into coaching. So got into coaching and then coached at my alma mater for a year, Webster. From there, went and did my GA job for 2 years at Central Methodist University with Jeff Sherman. Moved on to Chicago, worked at Lake Forest College for a couple years with Chris Conger. Went to Benedictine University, worked with Keith Bunkenberg for a couple years there. Then worked with Lance Randall down at St. Leo in Florida for a few years before getting my first head coaching opportunity at Menlo College in the Bay Area of California, and just got fortunate enough to get back to Hawaii and get the opportunity to coach the Vulcans at UH Hilo, just hired here this past summer.
Awesome. And you know, for those of you listening in, we kind of have an interesting, I guess, background, because when you were at St. Leo, you had recruited from me a couple years when I was coaching at Cuesta. And then I remember one day you called me when that Menlo job was open. You called me like, hey, you know, coach, how you doing? And I was thinking, okay, what player are you looking at this time? You're like, I got the head coaching job at Menlo. And I was like, what? You know, and it was kind of cool that we were able to then connect and, you know, obviously build a relationship out of that. And I think that's one cool part to coaching in general, is the longer you're around, the more people you connect with, the more relationships you build. And I think that's a really important part of just coaching in general and the game. So, okay.
It's brotherhood.
It is.
Brotherhood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you did a wonderful job at Menlo. As an alumni, I'm going to say that, shout you out on that. You did a wonderful job there. So thank you for turning that program around. Well, let's talk a little bit then into your offensive and defensive kind of mindset. What do you like to run offensively? Like, what is your style?
Score the ball.
That's a good one.
Offensively, we're spacing the floor, pace, try to get out, get in transition, get a good shot early at the rim or a 3 inside out, you know. So probably similar to a lot of other coaches, you know, in that we want to, you know, you hear play fast, like it almost makes you sick when you hear somebody say play fast. You're like, hey, you know, something different, something new. But, you know, we want to play that way. But the most important thing for us on the offensive end, whether we're in transition or in the half court, it's 5 guys working together. You know, our philosophy is 5 guys working together to create a high percentage shot. And then we spend a lot of time talking about what shot selection is. You know, what is a high percentage shot? What's a low percentage shot? And, you know, I want all 5 guys on the floor to be a threat. I want all 5 guys on the floor to feel like they're part of the offense. And it's been good for us. Over the years, we've evolved into a really good 3-point shooting team. at Menlo, and we shot a high percentage and a fair amount of them. But we weren't. I wouldn't have ever categorized us as a run and gun team, because we shot a high percentage because we shot good threes. We shot inside out threes. We shot one more pass threes. Drive and kick, open shots. And we'd use as much clock or as little clock as we needed to get those shots. So offensively, that's how we play. And then, we have a super basic motion offense that we run, but it's all about the guys making reads and getting better over the course of the year, learning how to play off of each other. I don't want to stand on the sideline and be like a joystick coach and telling guys where to go. We try to teach actions, and drill them in practice, and show them on film, and reward guys for making good decisions, and being unselfish and being smart. And then over the course of the year, it tends to pay off, and that we usually are playing our best basketball at the end of the year, which is what every coach wants. So that's offense. Defense, we've done different things, but primarily I've been the last 5 years a pack line. We have our own defense, but it's similar to a pack style defense. Pressure the ball in the gaps, try to take away everything in the paint, force teams to pass the ball around the perimeter, try not to get exposed at the rim, and in the paint. So that's the quick of it, really.
Nice. I like it. Let's dive into it a little bit more, real briefly. So transition offense, said you guys want to play fast. Can you share with our listeners, maybe 2 or 3 concepts that are part of that, whether it's, we have a rim runner who's taking the ball out. Where's the point guard go? What are the guys doing? Just give us a few concepts you guys play out of.
I think, I learned a long time ago, from doing the Pete Newell camps. I did that for 5 years and got to be around some great coaches. And one of the great phrases that I picked up being around great coaches in that camp is offense is spacing and spacing is offense. So when we, obviously the pace of getting the ball outletted up the floor, vision and finding the open guy up the floor is important. But we try to give our guys, we try to get as much space in transition as possible. So we're running to corners, which you see more common these days, in basketball and college and professional basketball. We're sprinting the corners, filling those corners, and then looking to get it up. When we'll get it up across the floor and try and run like a 2-sided break, or we'll get it up and try and penetrate and hit the drift, or put somebody in. We want to put the defense in rotation as quick and as often as possible. So if we can get them in transitions, the best time to get a team in rotation. You got guys cross-matched, you got guys not back, guys confused, guys still thinking about the last play, as far as your opponent. So you want to get it up the floor and try and get them in rotation early. So as soon as we can draw a low man rotation, usually in transition, good things happen. Then it's a drift pass, a kick. We always have somebody circling behind the ball on a drive, and and that's always an opportunity to get it back and swing it. And then we will ball screen. We don't like to get it on the floor and then wait and drag ball screen all the time, but we'll do that if we can't pass the ball into rotation and drive the ball in rotation, then we'll get into a ball screen and put it in rotation. So I think that those are some of the important things for us. Our keys are spacing, so spacing and respacing, and drive spots, where you go when the ball's moving. And those are like the fundamental building blocks of our offense. And then we play a 5-out, but we end up with guys posting quite often, getting a touch. So even though we're a 5-out offense, we'd like to curl a guy to the post, someone with the post matchup. We like to dive into the post, turn and seal, curl to the post, set a screen and slip to the post. And once the ball gets inside, then that's the other, like the third aspect of our offense that I would say is a big deal, is our post actions. What do we do what is your job when the ball is in the post, so that we can create, again, rotation or an inside out look, a hard closeout to drive, things like that.
So is that a cut through on the post feed, or are you splitting the post, the screening, or what's the action?
So we have a number of things that we do. It's, I mean, it's one of our offensive principles. We just have different concepts out of it. So the guys know, okay, so we may be running like a motion entry is what we call our early sets, our early actions, whether it's a horns ball screen or a double drag or a stagger action, whatever it is, we call those our motion entries. Okay. And the guys know that when we're through our motion entry, if we don't have them in rotation, if we're not going, then we get right into our motion offense, and it's less scripted. There's, you're passing, you're screening away, you're cutting, but it's less of a scripted offense. It's more on spacing and respacing, making decisions. And so similar to that with our post actions, the guys will know, okay, let's say we're running, we're pushing in transition. Let's run horns. If we don't have something, it runs into 5, which is our motion. And then from there, the guys will know we're in Kentucky. That means we're doing, we'll say Kentucky the post, or Wildcat the post, or Laker the post. And so the guys know what action we're running when the ball goes in the post. And it's all, meant to be seamless. We run our motion entry, it goes into our 5, it flows into a post touch. We know what we're doing when that happens. So,
Sounds like the post catch is a big part of your offense, and it's in an unscripted way. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is. And, we'll run some specific actions to get guys in the post and get a touch, just like every coach does. But a lot of it's really meant to be organic. A lot of it's meant to be the guys. I really want them just feeling like they're out there playing basketball. It's their thing. It's not something that we're constantly dictating to them. And that's the way I would have liked to play. And we've had success with it. And I think the guys, one of the biggest things in basketball and any sport or any organization is buy-in, right? And as a leader, you have to make sure that you're giving guys every opportunity possible to buy in. And a big way of us doing that is making sure that they know that they have decisions. It's their responsibility to be able to make decisions and understand, how to make reads on the floor and how to play together, So instead of always having to look over to the coaches for what next, the more we play, the better they get at being able to make these decisions on their own. And that's where a lot of the buy-in comes in.
I think it's interesting with the 5-out concept that a lot of times people think of 5-out as literally everyone's, all 5 are on the perimeter. Nobody's really going and posting up. Obviously with the name 5-out, that's the first thing that comes to mind. So that's interesting to me that you guys can start in a 5-out, but still it can morph into almost like not a 4-out 1 in, but similar idea to that. And that, you can run a 5-out, but you can still find ways to get post touches out of that.
Yeah. And we stress it, so even though we'll track post touches and paint touches. Okay. So one of our coaches will be tracking, making little tick marks on their sheet, all the things that they keep. One of our coaches will be keeping track of, and we might be 10 minutes of the game, and that coach may come up to me. And for us at Menlo the last couple of years, it was Coach Fuji, Richard Fuji, phenomenal coach, great friend, awesome man. But he was told we didn't have a post touch in, the last 7 possessions. And it's like, okay, so now we have to stress that to the team. Like, hey guys, we got to get inside out. Let's make sure we get a post touch here on the next, let's focus on that for the next 3-4 minutes. So we'll still be in 5-out spacing oftentimes. And the guys got to work their way down into the post. So, we found that, so when I first got to Menlo, we played a lot of 3-out, 2-in, and we were trying to kind of slow the game down. And, we didn't feel like we quite had the horses to get up and go. And we just evolved through the years. We went to 4-out, And then one year, kind of by, just serendipity, we ended up having to play a small lineup, and we ended up playing really small, and we're like, shoot, let's space them out. And we had 5 guys that could shoot on the floor, and it was really good for us. So we kind of started recruiting more to that and going more to that. But the one thing, as you mentioned, the post touches, we found at times, like when you go 5 out, you can lose that. That's the first thing that goes is getting the ball into the post, obviously. So we kind of had to find a way to make sure we were still stressing that, manufacturing it in our offense. So, yeah.
I think Augie is probably taking some notes on that, because I know he's probably considering running a 5 out next year. So
let me guess, all guards, Augie, no size?
Yeah, we have no size next year, but we are going to run something very similar where cutters can leg whip and post up all of a sudden, or you can, you can leg whip, post up, and then screen your way out, set a back screen and screen your way out. But yeah, motion concepts and I can see, I mean, what you're kind of talking about right now, it reminds me a little bit of some principles from read and react offense, where it's just cutters, and then, like I said, same stuff, cutters can post up. Is that how you're getting post ups, or are you setting is it people flashing, or how do you get the post up?
So I would say primarily starting with that 5 out spacing, if I was to go back and chart how we get the post up, I would guess the majority of the time when we're in 5 out spacing is it comes from, it starts in a screening action. So you might have, like, let's say you're bringing the ball down the floor, and the 1 is, let's say he's at the top of the key, and you got the 4 left wing, the 3 in the left corner, and the 2 in the right corner. Okay, it leaves the 5. Let's say, and we want to post the 5. The 5 is coming down. He's going to fill that right wing. What we'll have him do is he comes right down into a weak side pin down, or comes off of a flare screen. He might receive a screen coming down the floor. And what we would tell those guys to do is, hey, look to curl and post, So like if the 5's coming off a pin down, look to curl it. If he's setting a screen, we'll pop off of him so he can dive to the basket and post. Or just have him go try and set a screen and slip to the basket. He can make a direct cut. But our offense usually starts in some kind of screening action. If we don't have it in transition and we don't have them in rotation, then it's going to be a screen to key the offense, and that's usually where the big or whoever we're posting, if it's a 3-man or a 4-man, like whoever we want to post, whoever has that advantage, will find a way to curl or dive to the block, to the rim, and then turn and seal and get a touch. And we actually play, when we're talking about post touches, we have 2 different delineations. We're talking about playing on the deep post, like on the block, catching it on the block, or stealing in the lane to try and get a score. But we also play a lot through we call the leak out post. So you're 12 to 15 feet out, catching it, and it's a great area to really stretch the defense, to get heads turning and ball watching, and to get some other actions and direct cuts to the basket, especially when the other 4 guys are spaced around the perimeter. So we intentionally post guys, 12 to 15 feet away from the post or away from the basket, in order to be a little bit more of a playmaker, allow for some opportunities to kick out and drive. It's a harder recovery for the big to get from guarding at 15 feet to rotating over and helping on a guy driving to the basket off of a kick out, things like that, So there's some spacing stuff that we work on that. And that might be good for you with some of your, like guards. You might have a 6'5" man posting against a 6'6" 5-man or a bigger guy, and have that matchup. I love those matchups on the leak out post, because that guy turns and faces up. It's usually someone that can pass and has that advantage to drive. So, that's kind of been it's certainly been a part of our offense, and will continue to be as we build our program at Hilo and recruit, certain kinds of players and things like that.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that, Coach. I definitely got the gears turning definitely up here in the head on how we're going to get some post touches. So appreciate that.
Sure. That's what's so great about this, is like getting to talk X's and O's. And I'm sure you guys, just like me, just starved for basketball and being on the court. And you get to watch one basketball game a day right now in the playoffs. We have it good. We're able to at least see a game, and then soon that'll be gone. And we get to watching, get our kids on the floor soon so we can get our fix.
Definitely.
All right. Well, let's transition. So now that we have some more knowledge on your background as far as your philosophies, when you finished playing, what made you decide to take that leap and to start coaching? Because, there are players that they finish up and they're like, hey, I did my career. I spent my, last 22, 23 years playing basketball. I'm good. Like, I'm ready to move on to something else. And then there's obviously people like us three here that we are like, we're not done. We want to stay around the game. So what made you decide to jump in and say, okay, coaching is where I want to be?
Yeah. I don't have a romantic story about this. It's just I got done playing and really just still love the game, still love being a part of a team. Didn't know I was going to get into coaching. But, could have probably got into the corporate world. And I graduated in advertising and marketing communications, and my path would have been to go like work for like an ad agency or a marketing firm or a company like that. And I was like, I wasn't ready to do that. I was like, what if I got to go and market toilet paper or something? I don't know if I want to do that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I was like, I don't know. Like, I want to have a little more control over what I'm doing. And I want to, and I most importantly wanted to still be around basketball. I think my college coach at the time sensed it when he talked with me after I graduated and didn't know, after the season. And then after graduation, didn't know what I wanted to do, didn't really want to go and pursue those jobs. And he asked me if I wanted to come and volunteer for him the next year. And so I did that. I waited tables for a year, volunteer coach. I'd take the morning and lunch shift at the restaurant and then hustle over to practice. And, and that was it. That was my life for a year. And I fell in love with it in a different way, still being with the team, but kind of seeing the inner workings of the team, being in a coaches meeting and listening to the things that coaches talk about. And, I didn't get a big taste of recruiting that year, but I got a chance to see what they were doing. An idea of getting to pick your family, pick your the people you're going to be around was cool for me. So, and then, after, once I got into doing it that year, that was it. It was a done deal. That was what I was going to do. So, that's kind of how I got into it. So, and then really lucky, I got a chance to be a GA for 2 years with Jeff Sherman at Central Methodist. Wouldn't trade that opportunity for the world. I got to coach the junior varsity team. Like, we had a varsity reserve team. So like a JV team, got to coach them 7 a.m. in the mornings, and then our practice at 3, 4, 5, whatever in the afternoons for the varsity team, and do the scouting reports and recruiting and all of that. And the opportunity to do that was amazing. I'd recommend that for any young coach who's interested in coaching at any level, because you get to do everything, but especially in college basketball, to be a GA at a small college level. I mean, man, your hands are in everything from recruiting to, skill development, on-court opportunities, in-game opportunities. Yeah, scouting, I don't know if I said that, but, everything. So it really was a wonderful way for me to get experience and learn the business, 360 degrees. So, that was really good for me.
Nice. I'm sure at this point you're pretty happy with yourself being the head coach at Hilo. I'm sure that was maybe in the back of your head from day one, maybe being from from there. Was it a goal since day one, or when did that start coming into your head?
I've always known, I'm from Hawaii. You have a great pride for the Hawaiian people, for the Hawaiian Islands, for my home. And it was always, for me, there was always going to be something calling me back home, and there's not a lot of college basketball jobs here. We have no professional basketball program, obviously. There's 4 college programs now. It used to be 5 before BYU Hawaii ceased their operations in athletics and basketball. So there's us, Chaminade, Hawaii Pacific, and UH Manoa. There's 4 programs to coach college basketball in Hawaii. So, they're not just creating new jobs like this every day. So it was always something that was an exciting possibility for me to return home at some point. But, it's all about timing and luck and, people knowing you or knowing people, like there's a lot of things that have to go right. You don't get to just pick where you want to go all the time, and I knew that. And I, like I said, this is my 7th, college or university that I've worked at. So, and I was in the Midwest. I went to the Southeast, back west to California, and then finally coming back here. And so I'm super lucky, just really fortunate to be here. My dad played here in 1969. Both of my brothers graduated from Hilo. At one point when my mom went to college at Hilo, her mother and her grandmother were both taking classes at the same time at Hilo. So like, I went to the camps growing up here. This is a place that's always been like a hometown program for me. And so, yeah, tons of pride coming back home, really excited to be here. Selfishly, obviously, I wish it was kind of a normal year so we could be doing normal things and be ready to play a normal schedule. But it's an honor to be home and doing what you love. Yeah, it feels really, really good. It does. So, but now you got to win. Now you got to win games, and you got to do things the right way and
no
have
pressure.
success. And yeah, for sure. You can't. I tell people you can't come home and suck. Like you got to do good. So it's one thing to come home, but you gotta, we got to make sure that we're doing things to build a program that our community is going to be proud of.
Sure.
So yeah. But you're right, Augie. Yeah, it's great to be back.
And I probably speak for Og on this too, but we both, and I don't know if you knew this specifically, but we both coach at the high schools that we went to, which has been really cool for us. Yeah. So
awesome.
So we both, and we're both relatively new to those schools. So it's been kind of cool for me. And again, I'm pretty sure for Og could say the same thing. That it's been cool to come back and take it over. And obviously high school is a little different than college, but you still kind of have that same feeling of like, you walk on campus and you're like, hey, I walked these halls not that long ago, and I was in here growing up and in the gym and in camps and all that. So,
yeah, it's awesome, guys. Yeah. Congratulations. No, that's a great opportunity, great responsibility too, as an alum.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I guess my question is, as you transitioned between those colleges, how were those transitions? Because I think for a lot of younger coaches that, either they know about that process or maybe they don't know that a lot of times you may have to switch schools, it might take some time to get to be where you want to be. How was that transition? Was it pretty seamless as you moved school to school? Was it like almost like an earth shaking thing every time you moved? Like, oh man, I've got to move somewhere completely different. Like, how was that for you?
Yeah. I mean, you got love the one you're with, so you really, I love those programs that I was involved with. The head coaches, they gave me those opportunities to be assistant coaches there, or the athletic directors gave me opportunities to be head coaches. Like, you can't look too far ahead, you got to make sure that you're focused on doing the task at hand. It's not easy transitioning from one program to another, but it's one of the great things for me in my career. One of the things I feel really fortunate about is that I was able to work for so many different coaches, and to spend multiple years with so many different coaches, because each head coach brings a different thing to the table, does things a different way. You know, and we're not just talking about X's and O's. You learn a lot about basketball X's and O's from being in different programs and different systems, but leadership styles, you know, I mean, that at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to as a coach. You know, you're a leader of men, and you want to take note of how others do what they do, and find a way to learn from it, but find out most importantly who you are, you know, and how you want to do things. And being able to work for so many different coaches, that's one of the things that I learned is, like, you know, all of these guys are so different, you know, either in style or communication style or management style. And they all had great success. So it's like, you just learn, well, they did it their way and I can do it my way, you know. And being with many different coaches and learning that by being with many coaches has been great for me, because you know, I don't feel like I have to be like somebody else, because I've seen so many different ways of leading and and finding success, you know, with different styles. So I think that's been a key for me, a really valuable learning experience for me. But transitioning to new programs can be tough, you know, and it takes an inordinate amount of time and energy and mental energy to make sure that you're understanding. You know, most of those moves I was moving as an assistant coach, and assistant coach, you know, your job is just that. You have to assist the head coach and assist the program in any way that you can to add value to make the program better. So, and it takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of effort to figure out where you can make the most impact and where you need to improve to help the program. What you need to do more of, what you need to do less of, and then learning how to communicate with different types of players, demographically or otherwise, you know. So, but it's not easy, but I think it's a really it can be a really valuable experience for guys being able to coach for multiple coaches. There are some guys that are able to go through their whole career in one area, one program, assistant coach, head coach, whatever. And that's awesome too. You know, like the continuity of doing that it's amazing. And you get to really be ingrained in a community, in a program, in a coaching staff. That's super cool too. You know, for me, I had a different path, you know. It was to work for a lot of different guys and have to constantly adapt. And that's a big part of being a coach and leading young people is, man, things change quickly and you got to be able to adapt. So when your livelihood depends on the decision making of 18 to 22-year-old males, you better be flexible and you better be able to think on your feet and adapt, because they find different ways to challenge you that you wouldn't believe. So, yeah, but you know, I hope I answered that question. Yeah. Long-winded as it was.
No, that was good. That was great. Did you have something you wanted to add? I wasn't sure if.
Nope.
Okay. I was going to ask just one kind of little follow-up was, do you keep in contact with a lot of the coaches that you have worked with in the past?
Yeah. I count them as great friends, you know, and mentors. So yeah, we keep touch. I'm rooting for all those programs that I used to coach at. I'm rooting for those players. A lot of those players are not the ones that I coached or recruited anymore, obviously, but you know, you keep track of them and you hope for their success. And when you see one of my former coaches or programs is having a great year, I always want to make sure and continue to cheer them on and let them know. And then if they're having a tough year, you know, it's one of the things about, like I said earlier, it's a brotherhood, and to be able to, you know, either receive or give that phone call, like, you know, hey, I see you guys dropped the tough one, or you guys are, maybe it looks like you're struggling a little bit, or hey, you know what, coach, you guys you guys will get it right. What do you think's going on? Stuff like that, bouncing ideas off of each other. So yeah, there's a great amount of that. And then, obviously we want to know how each other's families are doing. You spend a lot of time with not just that person, but you get to know their family, and and so there's a lot of that kind of checking in, seeing how guys are doing. And I wish there was more. I mean, each year we go, as a college coach, and high school coaches do too. A lot of coaches go to the Final Four, and as a young coach, going to the Final Four was like, oh, who am I going to meet? Like, we're going to meet new coaches. We're going to, oh, there goes, John Thompson, or there goes Coach K, and there's a lot of that cool aspect of it. But as I get further on in my career, it's like, okay, I know in April I'm going to go see Coach Bunkenberg down in San Antonio, or I'm going to see Coach Randall and Pam and the kids, and that part is just as exciting as anything, knowing that you're going to get to see your friends and your mentors, at that time of year. And I wish you could do it more often. We're just all, in our own, you all go your separate ways, and physically or distance wise, it's hard to keep touch sometimes, but it is great to see each other again, because you have so many stories and so much shared past with guys that you used to work with and play with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for giving us some insight into that. Now, when you're talking about as you've kind of chased this dream of yours, and you've been going through these different colleges and through these all these years, what are some of the sacrifices that had to be made? Because I think a lot of people, I know Augie and I've talked about this, and I've talked about this with other coaches. Like, a lot of people watch and they see what's on TV, right? Whether it's, a local game or a national televised game, they see, oh, hey, look at this great nationally televised game. I want to be a college basketball coach, right? And they think it's, the 25 games of the season that are on TV, or if they're not, and they don't really think about everything else that goes into it and the sacrifices that have to be made to be a college basketball coach. And there obviously are some. So what are some of like the major ones that, in your career, if you were going to tell a young coach just to be like, hey, be ready, like this is something you're going to have to do if you want to pursue this career?
Yeah. I sacrificed my hair. My two older brothers are both firemen, and they both have all their hair. So,
Wow.
I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know. I'm starting to think it was probably occupation. But I think no matter what you're doing, like you're gonna sacrifice things. And we talk about this with our players too. It's like, it's all about prioritizing, and like, I think one thing that you'll hear a lot of coaches say is, the balance of family and your team is really, or your sport is really, can be tough at times, and I think that's one of the challenges that, and a lot of professions, I'm sure, have that. I don't think it's unique to basketball or unique to college athletics or coaching, but there are definitely some unique aspects of coaching basketball. Holidays, like, I haven't spent Thanksgiving with my parents in 20 years, like, or Easter, like, you don't get a chance to really, you don't get a chance to spend, I take that back. I did get 1 year with them, so that was nice. But like Christmas time, you have games, you have practice, New Year's, you're rushing back to, you're spending a lot of that with your team. So I think, there's that. I don't even call it a sacrifice, just a balance that you definitely have coaching basketball. And the thing that I guess would stand out and the flip side of that is your team, at least what works for me is that your team kind of becomes an extension of your family. They become part of your family. And that, I have a 3-year-old son, and for him, like, he said he calls himself a basketball player, like, he's like, I'm a basketball player. I'm going to be like the guys on the team, so he looks up to them. You know, it's, you know, my wife cares about the guys on the team. She wants to know what's going on with them. Like, you know, we want to make sure guys are, they have things, you know, holidays that they're taking care of, that, you know, that they're doing well, and this, that, and the other. So I think that's the flip side of it, is you have this awesome extension of your family that comes with it. So there's that balance. For me personally, having to move a lot was one thing. You know, I was at a couple of different colleges in Chicago, Florida, California, and each time you're going, for me, you know, it's anytime you move, it's hard. But for my wife, to move her from Chicago, where she had all of her family and her whole history, you know, everything there, to, hey, hun, we're gonna go to Florida. Is that cool? You know, like, okay. So she go to place, find a new job, find new friends, you know, new places to grocery shop, work out, all that stuff it's a challenge, you know, and it can weigh heavy on the head and on the mind and on the heart. And you have to find ways to balance that. And then from there we moved to California, and that there's challenges associated with that. And even moving to a place like Hawaii, moving back home, you know, we have a 3-year-old son, and for him to, you know, leave his couple of his friends and, you know, his day to day, it's a weird thing. So you have to be prepared for things like that if you want to get to a certain place, a certain level, a certain opportunity. Sometimes you got to be willing to move, and it helps to have, you know, to be surrounded by people who are on board, you know, 100%. They understand it, and that you can make that decision together, and you know, and make it a positive situation for the whole family. So, you know, I think, but yeah, I think those are a couple of the sacrifices, you know, just challenges, I would say, of the profession. Yeah, being gone, you know,
Right.
part of it.
Was there, you know, as you were going through, or I guess, you know, as you were coaching, was there even from the beginning, was there like an ultimate goal of like, hey, I want to, you know, get to here? I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but was there like an ultimate goal, like by the, hey, at some point in my career, I want to get here, I want to go to this part of the country or get to this college? Or was it more like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then as opportunities come, I can evaluate them and decide if that's what I want to do?
Yeah. I set some goals like early on, like like 5-year goals and things like that, of you know, but my goal had less, because like we just talked about, one of the sacrifices or challenges is you kind of have to go where the job is, or, you know, like you got to be flexible. um I worried less initially about where I was going to work, like geographically, and more about um, the path to becoming a head coach. So for me, I made a decision kind of early on, you know, like, hey, I want to be a head coach. Like, that's priority one. So like, it wasn't like, hey, I want to be a Division 1 head coach, or I wanted to, do a Division 1 or professional or any of that. It was like, I want to be a head coach. And I saw that opportunity, and enjoyed small college basketball. And I saw the best opportunity and path for me being that, that route, to work at Division 3, NAIA, Division 2, to try and give myself an opportunity, and build the skills I needed, and then also to build the experience I needed to be able to be considered for head coaching opportunities. So I got my first head coaching opportunity. I was 30, I think I was 31 at the time, or maybe just turned, yeah, just turned 31 or something. And that was great for me, and I was happy to be doing that, because that was my goal. It wasn't to go and be like a Division 1 assistant, or even to be a Division 1 head coach or Division 2 head coach or whatever. It was just, I wanted the opportunity to run a college basketball program. And secondary to that, I did want to get west. I knew eventually I wanted to get, as close to Hawaii as possible. One flight from my family if possible. If not, if not, zero flights. And so I would say those are more my that was more my way of doing it. And yeah, and it's a mix, like, of being an opportunist and also having a plan too, like, I think you, again, be flexible, because the timing doesn't always line up with what you want or expect,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely have to be a little bit resilient and willing to, like you said, to go with whatever the opportunities are at the time. Okay. Well, we got one last question for you here before we let you get out of here. Since you've been in now in the business for a little bit, and you've now had a few years of head coaching experience under your belt, what do you see as some of the, I guess, most common mistakes that young coaches make when they're trying to get into college basketball, and and ways that, I guess, if you give advice on that, what are your thoughts or opinions on that?
Yeah. So I think one of the unique things about college basketball is there's the coaching aspect and there's the recruiting aspect, right? Like, and they're both so important. There's a lot of guys in the game who are really good recruiters, but maybe spend more time on that than learning how to teach. There are some guys who are just great teachers, but don't like the recruiting or not as interested in it. But to be able to, I think, in my mind, to be able to become a head coach in college basketball, like, you gotta be able to have skills in both areas. And so, one thing as a young coach, like, I would suggest making sure that you're focused on both of them. Like, if you want to be a head coach, you got to make sure that, ultimately at the end of the day, like I said, we're leaders, we're, managers, but we're teachers, we're educators, and you gotta have a basic knowledge and understanding of being able to teach the game and teach skills, and whether it's on the court skills, life skills, whatever. But I think it's important to grow that skill set and affinity for it. Like, I think you really got to enjoy that aspect of it, because that's what players need. They need someone who knows how to teach them things that are going to make them successful. At the same time, if you're not recruiting you don't understand the recruiting aspect, or are able to get the right players to fit your system as a head coach, or your head coach's system, or the program, or the personality or the coaching style of your program, then you're going to have issues there too. So what's one thing I would say is it's being able to have both, to work on both of those skill sets, from the beginning. It's being a lifelong learner. It's making sure that you understand, like, there's so many different ways to do things, that you're learning, that you're taking notes of, your mind is constantly working on how you can improve. You're paying attention to what other people do, obviously. But then the flip side of that is making sure that you're that you're, I guess, it's not it. One thing I see coaches do a lot of is, like, we say it's a people business, and it's who and all of that, and that's partially true. Like, the networking aspect, like, it's great to know other coaches. It's great to know other assistant coaches, head coaches, whoever, athletic directors, people that are going to be able to, they're going to know who you are when jobs come available. That's a big part of it. But what matters too. So being a lifelong learner, making sure that you're evolving, that you're learning about the game, that you're staying up on trends, that you're that you're doing all of those things. I think that stuff is really important. And then I guess the other thing I would say is, with all of that, you gotta learn how to to do all of that, but to make sure that you are staying true to yourself. So I think early on, a lot of times coaches, you see somebody that you're like, wow, he's a really good coach, or he has what I want. I want to coach at a school like that, or a program like that, and I want to carry myself like that, or whatever. And that's all great. But you have to know that in order for you to be really to have, success, I think you have to be true to yourself. You got to know who you are as a person, how you are going to be successful leading players, how you are going to be successful teaching things and communicating. If you're not a Bobby Knight style of guy, it's not you. Don't try to change the way you are. So it's adapting, adjusting, and learning and improving, but knowing who you are at the foundation, and making sure you're true to yourself. You can't pretend to be somebody that you're not. So I think those are some things that I would suggest, if young coaches were asking about getting into it or being successful in it. I think those are important things.
Darn it, Og, you don't get to be Bobby Knight. I'm sorry, man. I know that's your idol.
That's one that I could never be like.
I couldn't see Augie being a Bobby Knight. No.
Yeah. And if you are, I guess that's the flip side, is if you are, you might want to, like
the trends have changed.
You still got to learn and evolve. And a lot of the stories that you hear from previous times, those things don't go anymore, and it's just that, but that's part of learning, that's part of, like I'm saying, keeping your eye on things and constantly evolving, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Og, any final thoughts from you?
No, I thought that was great. I just want to say thank you so much, Coach, for coming on.
Thank you guys. Yeah, no, it's an honor to be on here with you guys, and happy to do it anytime. I wear a XXX, so that pass first shirt that I see right there. Like I said, hey, you can sew two together if you got to, but I love to have one.
All right, we'll figure out a way to get one out to you. That's no problem. So thank you again so much for joining us. Again, also for all of you watching or listening, thank you as well. We really appreciate it. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube to like and subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, you can subscribe there as well. We come out with a new episode once a week, and we hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.